doesn't have a number. Which one do you want me to? What number is this?
This number.
It doesn't have this is 4.
No, 4, this is 3.
Okay, so it's 3 that you need to adjust. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنا فتحنا لك فتحا مبينا ليغفر لك الله ما تقدم من ذنبك وما تأخر ويتم نعمته عليك ويهديك صراطا مستقيما وينصرك الله نصرا عزيزا هو الذي أنزل السكينة في قلوب المؤمنين هو الذي أنزل السكينة في قلوب المؤمنين ليزدادوا إيمانا مع إيمانهم ولله جنود السماوات والأرض وكان الله عليما حكيما ليدخل المؤمنين والمؤمنات جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار خالدين فيها ويكفر عنهم سيئاتهم وكان ذلك عند الله فوزا عظيما آمنا بالله صدق الله العلي العظيم الفاتحة.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. Assalamu alaikum, dear brothers and sisters. I just have a few announcements, inshallah, before we start the program. So, iOS 8 has just had a successful Haidari Cup last week. There were 2 tournaments, a senior, a junior one, and all proceeds going to the amazing work that IOS has been doing in Pakistan. IOS Manchester has been making renovations to Cheadle, including setting up a high-class sound system and replacing many of its furniture, such as desks and cases. This was done so we can ensure we provide quality programs in every aspect. These renovations have been costly due to the high standards, and if you would like to donate towards any of the costs, it will count as a sadaqah jariyah for future programs. So please see members of the committee if you wish to do so. We are very proud to announce, inshallah, that we will be joined by Dr. Ali Al-Hilli, Raza Rizvi, and Ali Al-Hakim for our Manchester Majalis, inshallah, in September. Dr. Ali needs no introduction, and he will be providing us with academically led interactive style lectures, tackling the many challenges we face today and looking at the message of Imam Hussein alayhi salam in this place and time. So please look out for our emails, SMS, and social media announcements if you are having trouble receiving any news of our programs. So IOS has been running for many years, and we always aim to provide programs of the highest quality. We have many ideas in the pipeline at the moment to further support this lovely community that we have built for ourselves. This would not have been possible without your support for all these years, both in person, through attendance, and financially. So thank you very much. Please recite aloud salawat. Allahumma salli ala. We just ask for this to be continued so we too can continue to grow. And if you are not a member of IOS, or if you would like to sign up for a standing order, please do so online or ask at the main desk at the back. And finally, IOS Manchester will also be organizing the blood donation campaign for Manchester for the foreseeable future. The Imam Hussein blood donation campaign has been receiving a lot of publicity and recognition from even 10 Downing Street recently, and we would like for this to grow even bigger, especially in the city where it all started. So if you'd like to be involved as a volunteer in Manchester, please see Sister Zubi or Muntadhar. Without any further delay, inshallah, we would like to welcome the Sheikh with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. One last announcement I forgot. Sister Ghazala has been voted IOS National Volunteer of the Year, and IOS Camp for all the hard work that they have done. So that's just a small announcement. So please recite the salawat. Allah.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء وسيد المرسلين حبيب إله العالمين المصطفى أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المنتجبين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في كتابه المجيد وقرآنه الحميد وقوله الحق: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم، بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، فإذا عزمت فتوكل على الله إن الله يحب المتوكلين. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. So yesterday we spoke about some aspects of the life of Imam al-Rida alayhi salatu wassalam, so that we can have some context to the political situation during his lifetime and what kind of environment and climate he was living in and dealing with. Then we also said that the Imam Salamullahi alayh turned what may be perceived as a calamity into an opportunity when he was forced to accept Wilayatul Ahd, or being the successor of Al-Ma'mun Al-Abbasi. The Imam Salamullahi alayh turned that situation to the advantage of the Shia community by planning it in a manner where the Shia were being now protected after decades of persecution. He managed to fight publicly against some of the distortions that were happening in the Sharia. And within 2 years' time, he did these goals so well to the point where Al-Ma'mun Al-Abbasi decided to get rid of the Imam Salamullahi alayh. Today, inshaAllah, we'll take it to the next part of the discussion, which is dealing or achieving one's potential as a believer living in a Western society. We mentioned that Imam al-Rida salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayh lived in a society that was also corrupt society. The political dynamics were corrupt. The media of that time, which were the pulpits, the poets, those individuals were under the service of that tyrannic regime. If we take a look at those circumstances, we find that the Imam Salamullahi alayh, despite living in such a climate, still managed to achieve the highest ranks of potential, if we may call it in that context, in that sense, and serve the needs of the Shi'i community and fulfill his purpose of guiding people. وَجَعَلْنَا مِنْهُمْ أَئِمَّةً يَهْدُونَ بِأَمْرِنَا لَمَّا صَبَرُوا. He was doing hidayah, and he achieved that purpose of hidayah. So what lessons can we learn from the Imam Salamullahi alayh such that we can implement in our lives? First of all, our discussion today will begin by taking a look at the concept of potential. We will take a look at it from the psychological context, and then from the business context, and then the religious context. Once we have that understanding, then we will come to the next part of the discussion, where what can we do, or what can be done as an individual living in this part of the world to actualize our own potentials as individuals, as a family, and as a community. So let's go to the first part of the discussion. Actualizing potential or reaching potential. From a psychological context, we will take a look at a prominent psychologist in the early half of the 20th century by the name of Abraham Maslow. Abraham Maslow studied successful people. For example, people like Einstein. Why can't everyone become an Einstein or like an Einstein? Why can't everyone succeed in their lives to really produce so much to the world? What factors did he or people like him have that allowed him and people like him to become what they became. He identified what became known as Maslow's pyramid. He made a pyramid. He said there are 4 factors that are required on this pyramid such that a person can then achieve the 5th one. Okay. The first factor, he says, you need to provide for people's physiological needs. People have physiological needs. Food, water. If there are societies, which there are today in some parts of the world, that don't have access to clean water for drinking, and people who live in these communities or these societies may need to walk 2 miles, 5 miles each day so that they can access clean water to drink. In such a community, in such a society, then is it really easy to invest time on thinking, invest time on discovering, if your whole biggest concern is you're staying alive by meeting your physiological needs, then how are you going to survive? How can you produce? So he says what you really need to do is provide the basic necessities for human beings. And these are attending to their physiological needs. The second thing, he says, once you've provided that, so that's at the base of the pyramid. He says, then you go on to the next level. And he says, that's what they call the safety needs. People need security. There are parts of the world today where they don't have security. People are afraid of leaving their homes. Or when they leave their homes, they don't know if they're going to come back home alive. When people are living under such fear, then it is difficult to produce because you're preoccupied. Your mind is preoccupied. There are people who are living even in what we call today first world countries who are living paycheck to paycheck. People who are worried about meeting their lease or their rent or paying their mortgage by the end of the month. A study that was published in Canada literally 2 days ago, that came out in the papers, it said that people who are working on minimum wage in Canada, minimum wage, it is impossible for them to find a 1-bedroom apartment, to afford a 1-bedroom apartment in Canada. In other words, you're working full-time, minimum wage, you can't even afford a house, a place to live. So if that's your biggest concern, and you're working so many hours a week, 40 hours a week, for example, and you don't even have much money to pay for a rent, how can you be productive? Your mind is preoccupied, you're concerned, you're worried. There are more than 30 million people in the United States who are living under the poverty line. So many people are living homeless. They don't have homes. 1 in every 6 children in the United States does not have proper meals. In this country, which is one of the superpowers in today's world, one of the wealthiest countries in the world today. Okay. So when you don't have that kind of security, how can you succeed? How can you actualize your potential? If you have to be preoccupied with your food and your security and your place of residence and so on and so forth. So that is the second necessity. Interestingly, in Surah Quraysh, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions those 2 bounties, blessings upon the people of Quraysh. الذي أطعمهم من جوع وآمنهم من خوف. The one who fed them from hunger and secured them from fear. So these are the ni'mas of Allah. Yani Allah gave Quraysh the basic necessities for them to prosper as a community, as a society. They didn't have to worry about hunger, nor did they have to worry about security. After meeting those 2 requirements, he says the next level, Maslow says, is where you need what he calls the sense of belonging, need of belonging, needing love, needing family. The human being is a social being. He wants to have some sense of belonging. He wants to be belonging to something. He wants family. He wants that acceptance. And this could be a reason, according to some studies, why do certain youth turn to organizations that may not be very proper organizations, such as gangs. You'd have some youth, for example, who be turned to some gangs. Why would they turn to gangs? They say because that sense of belonging. In a gang, there is that sense of brotherhood, that we look after each other. We are brothers. That is something that some people are lacking. They want that belonging. So they turn to it in this way, when they cannot find it in a proper setting. And that could relate to other kinds of dynamics as well, where people, when they see something that attracts them or something that makes them feel that they can belong to it, even though that is not their upbringing, that's not the way they've been brought up, even if it's something that goes against their religious views, but it is that sense of belonging. So sometimes they go and attach to it and adhere to it. People need that. So that's the family. Once they have that, or the love, the feeling of love, the sense of belonging, then he says it's the fourth level, and what he calls esteem. Esteem. People need to be respected. They want to be recognized. They want to be complimented. So they want to feel that, they are being appreciated. They can do this. That gives them the drive, the motivation that I can do this. He says if you provide those four things, physiological needs, safety needs, the belonging needs, and esteem, then this person can achieve the pinnacle of the pyramid, and that is what he calls self-actualization. Now this person can really flourish and prosper and become a very good contributing member of the society and the world at large when you provide these necessities. Here, as a side comment, Imam Ali, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayh, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa says, لا تستوحشوا طريق الحق لقلة سالكيه. Don't feel estranged in the path of the truth because there are so few people on it. So when it comes to that esteem part, esteem maybe from the religious sense comes through one's conviction that he or she is on the Sirat al-Mustaqim. Even though many people might be against the individual. So the whole world can turn against me. As long as I am sure that this is the haqq, this is the truth, then that should not deter my esteem and should not deter my perseverance, that this is the haqq. Now, how do I know? Well, there are some factors. There are sometimes indicators. If I am an individual who refuses to take bribes, for example, because of my position, even though many people might turn against me, I know for sure what I'm doing is right. Even if that might end me in the prison, but I know what I'm doing is right. I will never accept that. If I'm an individual who is pressured to take off the hijab, but I decide not to do it, because I know this is haqq, this is the truth. I may struggle in finding a job, I may struggle in, for example, fitting in, but I know this is haqq. Allah has ordered this, Allah had commanded this, so I will adhere to it. Even if it might lead to social isolation. This is haqq. If a family member invites me to his or her wedding, and this wedding does not adhere to the principles of the Sharia, there are dances, mixed gathering, music, and I refuse to attend, where the family then turns against me. How dare you not to attend this wedding? The whole family is attending. As long as I know what I'm doing is haqq, I don't really care, even if the whole family turns against me. But here is where very few people have that esteem to do so. So people sometimes succumb. And this is where we will discuss, inshallah, when we come to the reaching the Islamic potential. This is a very important issue here, the social pressures. So that is actualizing one's potential from a psychological point of view, providing these needs according to Abraham Maslow. Okay. In the business world, they have a different look at things. There was an article published in the Harvard Business Review by a professor who used to be in Harvard until 2015 by the name of Professor Kaplan, Kaplan, Robert Kaplan. In that article, he was a professor who was teaching MBAs, Masters of Business Administration. In that article, he outlines 3 important aspects for an individual to reach his potential from a business perspective. 3 points, he says. First is knowing thyself, knowing yourself. He says, if you were to sit down right now, each and every one of you guys, and sit down and think, what are 2 to 3, write down 2 to 3 of my strengths as an individual, and 2 to 3 weaknesses as an individual. He says that's very important, to identify your strengths and your weaknesses. He says sometimes people are aware of their strengths, but they are unaware of their weaknesses. They don't think about them. Because psychologically, we don't want to think of our negatives. We want to think of our positives. But it is important to sit down and figure out what are my strengths and what are my weaknesses. He says sometimes that requires questions. He says, when I asked one executive one day, what are your weaknesses? He couldn't think of any. I told him, you have some homework to do. Go back, ask your employees, do some research, and then come back and tell me. He says when he did this, few weeks later, he came back, he said he was shocked how his employees perceived him. Some of them perceived his style as an authoritative, dictatorial style, and that's why his employees would distance themselves away from him. They would not associate, even though he was the boss. Okay, so that identified some of his weaknesses, and then what he started to do is attend some seminars and workshops so that he can enhance his weaknesses and work on them. That's why it's important to identify one's strengths and one's weaknesses. What are your strengths? What are you really good at? What are you good at doing? One way that they look at this, they say, okay, if you had $10 million in the bank, then what would you choose to do with your life? Because then an individual would want to do things that he or she likes. That this is what I would like to do in my life. Okay. Well, that's where we might need to sit back and think, that's where I need to capitalize on. So from a business perspective, identifying those strengths and weaknesses are important. Okay. Second, he says identifying the critical task. What is the objective, the goal of your organization? If you were to sit down and think, what is my goal of this organization? Okay, maybe the goal is to increase sales. All right. Well, how am I going to increase sales? Do we need to work on our marketing? Do we need to work on our sales managers? Do we need to, etc., etc.? So that's where you need to figure out what are the critical tasks. If you are a not-for-profit organization, well, one of your goals is, for example, to build hospitals. You want to build, for example, one hospital every 3 years, for example, in a particular location in the world. Okay, well, that's our goal. How can we achieve it? We need to fundraise. Then what are some of the tactics that we need to do to fundraise so that we can achieve our goals? Once you identified your goals, then it's important to figure out what are the plans and the strategies. Developing plans are very important. A lot of times I attend seminars where youth are talking, discussing, for example, they're planning, and when you sit down and ask them, what are your goals? They don't know what the goals are. If you don't identify your goals, then how can you move forward? You identify the goals, you figure out the plan, and develop the strategies, and then you progress in life. Even as individuals, we also need goals. Now, these goals might change over time. They could be short-term goals and long-term goals. For example, short-term, if you're a student, your short-term goal is, for example, if you're a high school student or a junior high school student, my short-term goal is to get into university. Well, that's my goal. Okay? Well, in what field? I'm not sure yet, but it could be finances, it could be something. Okay, well, your goal is to get into university. That's fine. What is the minimum average to get into university these days? Let's say, for example, it is 80%, for example. Okay. All right. Let me look at my grades. Am I getting an 80% average now? And if the answer is yes, fantastic. I need to keep up with that trend. If not, well, I need to change my studying habits. Okay. I hear sometimes some kids telling me that, I'm only in year 5. I still have another 3-4 years to worry about this thing. So it's okay. I don't need to really worry hard. No, it's a habit. It's a habit. You need to get into that habit. If you are in year 5 and you really don't care about school, then what's going to make you care about school when you get into year, for example, 8 or 10 or whatever? It's a habit. So you need to develop it as a habit. That's why Aristotle said perfection is a habit. People need to develop that habit to become perfectionists, to become good people, achieving what they do, good at what they do. Hence, that's a goal. Okay, well, once it becomes clear to me that I want to get into, for example, law school. Okay, well, what's the minimum average to get into law school? Well, it's not 80% anymore. For example, it shoots up to, let's say, 87%, for example. Okay, well, now I'm going to have to get that 87. Am I there yet? Am I not? Etc., etc. That's my plan. Once I got into law school, okay, my plan is to finish this degree, complete it successfully, and get, I don't know what you call it here in the UK, but we call it articling. Basically, where you graduate and you have to work for a firm for some time until you get your license. You become a certified lawyer or barrister or solicitor, etc., etc. So, I want to join a really good firm. Well, what is necessary for me to join a good firm? I have to do this. This is what I need to do. That's planning. Here is your plan. So that's your goal. Your goal is to join the firm. Okay. But you see how the goals are changing. So first of all, your goal was to get into university. Well, you got into university. Now the goal is to find a good firm. Okay, now you got a good firm. But every time you're developing goals, plans, and you're developing strategies. That's how one succeeds. This is something that is a common thread or theme among successful individuals. They figure out their goals and they develop plans and strategies. And for your note, research from California suggests that individuals who write down their goals, so sometimes you think about them mentally, and sometimes you think, but if you think about them mentally and then write them down, your goals and your plans, the chances of you succeeding are twice as much when you write down your goals. So writing down the goals are important. Whether you write them down on your digital format or on a piece of paper, etc., etc., just write the goals and your plans down. Okay. And then so on and so forth. So people need to plan, and that's what would achieve one success. Okay. Planning, having the goals, figuring out the strategies, and so on and so forth. My advice to the mu'mineen is once you've achieved, let's say in this particular example, that law degree, then what's next? Okay, you started practicing. Now where you need to aim for something big. You aim for the stars, you land on the moon. Okay, so that's where you need to go. Go far. Like, okay, I want to become a human rights activist. I would like to establish an organization that will defend human rights, and this organization, like Amnesty, for example, or something like this, these organizations will become so powerful, so strong, people would really worry about what they publish and the results, for example, the reports that they come in with. Something like, aim for something big. Become a human rights individual, for example. That's the second thing, he says. So first thing for financial business success is identifying strengths and weaknesses, your strengths and weaknesses. Second is the critical task, your goals, the goals of the organization. And the third, he says, demonstrating leadership, quality leadership. And that involves putting the interest of people before your interest, the interest of the organization before your interest. He says that's what demonstrates character. Demonstrating character and leadership. The way you demonstrate character is by caring for the people. Look after the people. In a different article by the Harvard Business Review, they say one of the ways that you can gain people's trust is by demonstrating to them sincerely that you care about them and you care for them. That's how people can trust you then. Once people trust you, they are more inclined to following you and to doing what you would like them to do. So in a healthy organization, the leadership, the followers trust their leadership. And then they have a very nice dynamics. It's no longer a boss, employer or employee relationship. It's a boss, employee relationship. It's more about a whole organization. It's like a family now. And it could be something simple. Ask your employees, how are you doing today? How are things? Have a conversation about their personal lives. So now you're learning about them instead of just being them an individual who is just working for you. That's character. Leadership is where you become a mentor. You become a coach. You stand up for what's right because it's right. Even if people don't like it. That's where you demonstrate leadership. So these are aspects that Kaplan says will make one reach their potential from a business perspective. Now we can take a look at both of those aspects, the psychological aspects described by Maslow and the business aspect described by Kaplan, and let's take a look at the religious potential. From a business perspective, according to Kaplan, if you have an organization that is successful, you need planning. You have to plan. You need to identify your goals. Okay, that's in business. Can I ask you a question? What are our goals in life? Have we thought about our plans for the akhirah? What have we planned for the eternal life? Some people don't think about these kinds of questions. When you ask certain people, what is success? And can you describe successful people? The majority of the people will tell you among the successful people are those CEOs of large corporations in the world. And they'll throw you with some really big names that are very popular names. Those are successful people. Some will say some successful people are those who can achieve high political ranking. They become ministers, they become mayors, they become prime ministers. These are successful people. They made it. Presidents, and so on and so forth. So this may be success from the materialistic context. It is hardly that I have come across people who would say successful people are, for example, مراجع التقليد. مراجع التقليد is a success. Usually they don't mention مراجع التقليد. And مراجع التقليد is not a successful person, according to some people. Or at least you don't hear that name or that category among success. Okay. It is sometimes not found about success being nice people, people who actually care, compassionate people. You may be the highest paid CEO in the world. But then, what are your akhlaq like? Do people really like you? You could be a president of the most powerful country in the world, and you have so much money, and you have so much fame, but then do people like you? So then, are you successful really? Is that what success is about? So then when it comes to the religious aspect of things, brothers and sisters, some people, they don't realize the importance of our planning for our akhirah. Have we planned for the moment when Malakul Maut comes to take our soul? Have we planned for when we are going to be put in our grave on that first night? Have we planned for the questioning by the angels in the grave? Have we planned for when we are presented with some of our actions in the grave? Have we planned for the time of our resurrection? Have we planned for the time when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or His angels will start to question us in the hereafter? When Allah says, "My servant, did you have the blessings of the sight in this world?" And you say, "Yes, I did, my Lord." He say, "Then why did you use them to look at the haram?" "My servant, did you have health in this world?" And you'd say, "Yes, my Lord, you blessed me with health." Okay. Then why did you use your health that I blessed you with to disobey me with? To hurt other people. To cheat other people. To take the rights of other people. "My servant, did you have money in this world?" And if you answer, "Yes, my Lord, I had some money." "Well, my servant, did you pay your khums? Did you give your huquq? Did you pay the zakat? Did you help the poor?" Have we prepared for that question? "My servant, did you wear the hijab?" And if the answer is no, then why not? A person might say, "Well, my Lord, you're the one who gave me this, and I couldn't resist the temptations. So, yes, you helped me with the sight, with the ears, the hearing, the health, the money, but you also created me as a weak human being, so I could not resist the temptations, my Lord." In psychology, that's called blame shifting. Blame shifting. When sometimes people fail, they don't want to take responsibility for their own failures. So what do? They blame it on other people. "It was not my fault. It was the people. They did not support me." One does not admit that he or she may have had bad leadership skills, for example. They don't want to admit that. So they shift the blame on others. That's how sometimes we do things. Here, we are trying to shift the blame on Allah. We have a hadith that will say on the day of judgment, Allah will ask a woman who did not wear hijab in dunya, "Why did you not wear the hijab?" And she will say, "Ya Allah, you made me so beautiful in the dunya, and so I wanted to reveal that beauty. Yani it's not my fault for not wearing the hijab. You made me beautiful." Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then will present her with Maryam ibnatu Imran, the mother of Isa salamullahi alayhi. And he will say, "Who is more beautiful, you or her?" And the lady will say, well, she's a lot more beautiful than I am, Ya Allah. He says, how come hiya ahsanat farjaha? How come she protected herself? She looked after herself. She obeyed me when she had more beauty than you did. What is your excuse now? There is no answer. You are saying that I put you in a position of power. You had power. You became a prime minister, a leader, an CEO, a leader of an organization. Why didn't you deal with people fairly, look after their interest? Well, Ya Allah, you made me weak. You created me like this. It's not my fault. Well, what about some of the ulama, maraji' al-taqleed, that Allah will present us with? He said, look at this alim. This alim, he used to get millions of dollars every year in khums. He had that much power. He had so many followers who could follow him with one fatwa. Yet, he was living in a small house. When he died, he did not own much, other than maybe his abaya and his imama and his things. He left. He had power. He had money. Why didn't he abuse it? And he's a human being just like you. Our maraji' al-taqleed, may Allah bless them all and have mercy on those who died, are not ma'soomeen. So they also may want one day, wal-iyadhu billah, shaitan might tempt them that, why don't you live in a bigger house? Why don't you have a nicer place? But they would resist all these temptations for their piety and the fear of Allah. How come they did it? Why didn't you do it? So that is something where we need to plan for. What is our plan? قالوا يا ويلنا ولهذا الكتاب لا يغادر صغيرة ولا كبيرة إلا أحصاها ووجدوا ما عملوا حاضرا. They said, my Lord, woe, this book, the book of our deeds, it counts every small and big detail. Everything is counted in this book. And they see what they did present in front of them. That's a very important aspect. It means on the Day of Judgment, we will see our deeds in personified form. فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَهُ وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَهُ. You'll see your deeds. So at the individual level, we need to start preparing and planning for that time, for these questions. What are we going to say? When I start planning and I start thinking, okay, I want to achieve the pleasure of my Lord. So in dunya, I'm going to have to make some sacrifices. Now, some people, when they come to view religions, brothers and sisters, they find religion very restrictive. They say religion, okay, waking up early in the morning to do Salat al-Fajr. Okay. Praying 5 times a day. Fasting the month of Ramadan, and these days the month of Ramadan is in the summer. That's 18 hours of fasting. Having to wear the hijab. You're not allowed to listen to haram music. You can't have parties and whatever. These are all restrictions. Well, my brothers and sisters, let me ask you a question. If you want to get into a good university, unless you're a gifted individual, which most people are not, the average people, can you get into a good university by sleeping on the pillow and doing nothing? Or you have to study, work really hard, discipline yourself, and sacrifice some distractions. You might find some of your colleagues are partying on Friday night, but you have an exam on Monday, so you actually have to sit down, pick up the book, and study. Okay. But then when the results come out, then who's laughing? Okay. When you want to achieve success, even in an organization, it doesn't happen by you just lying back and doing nothing. People who are successful CEOs, they say on average, people who have successful ventures, enterprises, they failed 3 times. They started one, they failed. They started a second time, they failed. They started a third time, and that's when it took off. What they did is when they failed, they sat back and say, why did we fail? What went wrong? So they would sit down and try to figure out where did they go wrong. And then the second time, they would build on it. It's that perseverance, that patience, which achieves you the success. There is a very famous British novelist by the name of J.K. Rowling. You guys know? What is the books that she's written, the famous ones? MashaAllah, MashaAllah. You guys are really good there. I sometimes find these youngsters reading these thick books of Harry Potter, which is really good, MashaAllah. It improves your vocabulary, your language. I encourage people to read. Fiction and non-fiction, both. I think people should be reading because that improves your vocabulary, your English, etc., etc. But you're reading like these 700 pages, MashaAllah. Okay, read 50 pages on Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam as well. Okay, you're reading all this non-fiction, this fiction. Read 50 pages of non-fiction, and that's Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. There is a good book called Kitabul Irshad by a Sheikh al-Mufid, Ridwanullah ta'ala alayh, which contains the history of Ahlul Bayt. Read that book. Now, especially those of you who are on your summer holidays, read that book. And it's only 2 volumes, not 7, 8 volumes like the other book of non-fiction, of the non-fiction book. The fictional book. So it's good to know. This lady I was reading once, a few years ago in the British newspapers, she donated £1 million to the Labour Party at the time when Brown was the Prime Minister. She was asked, why did you donate £1 million to the Labour Party? Her response, listen. She said, because they were there for me when I was on welfare. This lady who has now £1 million to donate at the time, who had fame, is very famous, so well known, her books are so on and so forth. One day she was on welfare. Which means success doesn't come overnight. It takes time. You have to put in effort. You have to put in really the struggle to achieve that success one day. Most of the success, with the exception of these really rare stories, you have like the overnight he became a millionaire. These are rare stories. But if you go with the tradition, most people, it takes them ages, time, failures, persistence to achieve success. So then why, when it comes to religion, I find religion very restrictive? Well, I need to struggle as well to achieve success. We need to struggle. Because every success, or let's say almost every success, comes with struggle. And to have success in dunya and in akhirah, we have to go through some struggle. أَحَسِبَ النَّاسِ أَنْ يُتْرَكُوا أَنْ يَقُولُوا آمَنَّا وَهُمْ لَا يُفْتَنُونَ. At the individual level, I will struggle. That's what the beauty of the religion is. It gives me that tranquility. It gives me that serenity. It gives me that ability to organize my life, structure it, so that inshallah I can achieve success in dunya and in akhirah. Do you know how many people suffer from depression? I mentioned yesterday in the UK, 1 in 6 people suffer at some point in their life in the UK from depression, being depressed. How relieving it is when you sit down on the prayer mat, when you feel things are just not going well. In the middle of the night, and you say, Ilahi, al-afwa, al-afwa, al-af. Or you say, Astaghfirullah Rabbi wa atubu ilayh. And you say, Ilahi, my Lord, help me. I am drowning, but I know you can help me. And that's what the ayah we started with, where Allah says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, فَإِذَا عَزَمْتَ فَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الْمُتَوَكِّلِينَ. When you have made your determination, then keep your trust in Allah. Indeed, Allah loves those who put their trust in Him. That is priceless. Priceless. That gives us hope. That makes us feel the tranquility and the peace. No matter how much problems I have in life, I can turn to Him. So while, yes, some people may be appearing to be very happy, they're enjoying their lives, they may not have the restrictions that I have. I've come across individuals who tell me, Sheikh, you know how hard it is to work in the corporate world when you are a mu'min? How many times they invite you to these drinks and luncheons where there's drinks and things, and you have to say, I can't attend. Well, they may hinder your abilities and chances of promotions, and sometimes may even result in your dismissal because you don't really fit in the culture. Well, this is part of our struggle. Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, when he became the Khalifa, he fought 3 wars. They came to him, brothers and sisters, they said, listen, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, Muawiyah wants power, Talha wants power, and Zubair wants power. How about, for the time being, give them some power until your Khilafah strengthens, solidifies, gels, and then get rid of them all. Had he done that, he would have avoided Camel, the Battle of the Camel, avoided Siffin, saved the lives of thousands of Muslims. Did he do that? Why not? Because that's where some people accuse him of being a weak politician. Which individual would sacrifice the lives of thousands when he could have made simple moves, tactical moves, that would have prolonged his khilafah and saved the bloodshed? Do you know why? Because it is not the pleasure of Allah. When he acts by the pleasure of Allah, it doesn't work. He says, and then when Muawiyah oppresses a person and steals the wealth of individuals, who is responsible? What am I going to say to Allah on the Day of Judgment? I will not compromise when it comes to matters of religion. So yes, it's going to cause me difficulty. The Battle of Camel, the Battle of Siffin, the loss of loved ones. Ammar was killed, Malik al-Ashtar was killed, Uwais al-Qarani was killed, and he felt bad. Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr, he started crying for the loss of these people. He cried for them. He's in pain. But it is fi ta'atillah. So I can sacrifice a little bit about me wearing hijab, not attending to these parties, not doing this for the sake of Allah. That's our planning. Very briefly, next, as a family, we need to raise our children to be followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. Last night during the Q&A session, I mentioned on this. Very briefly, I will say, we need to teach our children reading Arabic. They have to learn how to read Arabic. Because the Quran is in Arabic, the du'as are in Arabic. Yes, some people say, well, why can't we read Du'a Kumail in English? There is no harm in reading Du'a Kumail in English. However, the Arabic is Imam's words. The English is someone's translator's words. So there's a big difference. Similarly with the Quran in Arabic is Allah's words. The translation is a person's interpretation of Allah's words. That's not Allah's book, which is in English. The Arabic is Allah's book. So it's important to teach them Arabic language. Second, for those of you who come from different ethnicities, whether it is the Pakistani, Indo-Pakistani, whether it is the Iranian, whether it is the Iraqi, Lebanese, etc., etc., the language is important in keeping your cultural identity. If you want to keep cultural identity for your children, then you have to maintain the language. If not, then you need to maintain the Shi'i identity of your children. Here, some people will start to criticize us. Come on, what about our British identity? We say, well, there's nothing wrong with the British identity. Aren't there any Catholic British? Protestant British? Jewish British? Anglican British? So why can't you have a Muslim British? Our Islamic identity does not conflict our British identity. So there's nothing wrong with that. Okay? But we need to maintain that Shi'i Islamic identity for our children. Third, let us make sure when we give them these devices that we monitor what do they do with them, because this is the whole world at their fingertip. The whole world. These devices should not be used in the bedroom by your children. They should be in the living room, not in the bedroom. Because research shows most of the problems that happen with children, it's in the bedroom when there's no supervision. So you don't deny them from using these devices, but you tell them you use them in the living room, where even if you're not standing behind their shoulder looking at it, they know subconsciously you're in the background. So the chances of them doing something that they're not supposed to be doing is much minimal. When they want to watch something from this, with the technology available today, project it on the television. Tell them, project it on TV. This way, if anything comes up on the screen that you realize it is not appropriate, you can immediately intervene. Even if you're not there, you could be standing in the kitchen or sitting at the dinner table, working, for example, on your laptop. But when you see this, you say, oh, wait a minute. Gaming for the children, especially boys, that should not be in the bedroom. That should be in the living room. So that you see what do they do. Who are they talking with to when they put the headphones on their ears? Who are they talking with? Who are they playing with? What games are they playing? This is what you need to see. Because sometimes when you realize, like, my gosh, son, you've been playing this game? What is this game? Like, oh, Dad, you know, all my friends play it. Yeah, I know, but what is this? That's when you start realizing. Plus, when it's the weekdays, designed to them, tailored to them, how much screen time they need to get. Research shows for children who are age 12 and up, they spend 9 hours a day on the internet. That's a full-time job. More than a full-time job. 9 hours a day. For the boys, usually it is on gaming. For the girls, it's on social media. Are you aware of this? Your children in your house, under your nose, are 9 hours on these things, on average. Okay? You need to set the boundaries, the criteria, that you're only going to play, for example, game for 1 hour a day. For example, 2 hours a day. You choose. But then you have to find them alternatives. What activities? How are you going to fill the rest of their day? He has, from 9 a.m. he wakes up until 12 p.m., or 8 p.m. when he sleeps. How is he going to fill his day? You need to make him join some activities, sports clubs, whatever. Spend time with them. Invest time with the children. So this is something important. This is for the families. And then the society and the community, my brothers and sisters, the establishment of schools. Schools are very important. So many Catholics, they have their own school system. The Jews have their own school system. Correct? Yeah. Other ethnicities, where I come from, the Sikh community has its own school, where I come from, in Canada. So why did they establish these special schools? Because to keep their religious identity. So to maintain our Shi'i religious identity in this day and age, establishing schools are important. Otherwise, 50 years from now, maybe 100 years from now, these centers will be empty. There's no one here anymore because we've lost our future generations' Islamic religious identities. So we need to work on establishing schools, research institutions, so that we can work on together. Senior homes. Do we have Islamic Shi'i senior homes? We've got to think about this. You guys right now are young, alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen, the majority of you. But 50 years from now, you guys will become what? 70-year-olds, 80-year-olds, 90-year-olds. Where are you going to go if you need to go to a nursing home? How about having a Shi'i nursing home, which, for example, has Dua Kumail every Thursday night, for example? It has a projection to the IUS or to some other centers where if I want to watch a lecture, I can flip on the channels and I can watch. These are things to think about now. You got to be thinking like, oh yes, now you're young, mashallah, and healthy. But what about 30 years from now, 50 years? What's going to happen to you? What are you going to do? So senior homes, these are things for the community that we need to plan for. Mental health issues. These are serious things. Our youth are suffering, some of them, from alcohol addiction, drug addiction. Well, we need to have some organizations that they can turn to. Marriage counseling, 50% divorce rate these days. 50%. Are we at that level where we can counsel them within the framework of the Sharia? We have a proper psychologist. We have a proper, for example, social worker, religious guidance. All these are things we need to think about. We are way overdue to think about these things. Once we do that, inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will help us achieve our potentials as Shia in the West. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us through the guidance of Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam, and to, inshallah, help us as individuals, families and communities to achieve His pleasure and the pleasure of Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. And may Allah grant us their shafa'ah in this world, in the qabr and in the akhirah. Let's raise our hands, recite this ayah 5 times. Some mu'mineen have asked us to remember them in our dua. Some have hajat, issues. Some are having health problems. Many people who have many needs, they've requested us to remember them in our dua. And we all have hajat. And our biggest haja is the shafa'ah of Ahlul Bayt alayhim wassalam, inshaAllah. So let's recite this ayah together. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. 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 اللهم إنا نسألك وندعوك باسمك العظيم الأعظم الأعز الأجل الأكرم، بفاطمة وأبيها وبعلها وبنيها والسر المستودع فيها، اكشف عنا السوء يا الله، اغفر ذنوبنا، كفر عنا سيئاتنا، وتوفنا مع الأبرار. اللهم اقض حوائج المؤمنين والمؤمنات، شاف وعاف جميع مرضى المؤمنين والمؤمنات. رب اغفر لي ولوالدي وللمؤمنين يوم يقوم الحساب. رب ارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا. رب اجعلني مقيم الصلاة ومن ذريتي ربنا وتقبل دعاء. اللهم عجل لوليك الفرج واجعلنا من شيعته وأنصاره وأعوانه والمستشهدين بين يديه. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا، حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. لقضاء الحوائج، شفاء المرضى، كشف هذه الغمة عن هذه الأمة، تعجيل فرج مولانا صاحب العصر والزمان. وإلى أرواح أمواتنا وأموات الجالسين والحاضرين والباذلين والمؤسسين، رحم الله من يقرأ السورة المباركة الفاتحة مع الصلوات. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم. أحسنتم.
Assalamu alaikum, dear brothers and sisters. Inshallah, we've got a minute or two until we will pray. So can I please ask the brothers and sisters if they can kindly get up and put the chairs to the sides and prepare for Salah. Thank you very much. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.